Welcome to the Grand Theft World podcast hosted by grandtheftworld.com. This is where we take a sampling of freedom and independent liberty-minded producers' works of the week, reporting on current events, and we intersect or juxtapose those with some contextual history to help you understand the world around you, the things that are going on, how it relates to history, and how we can take steps so that it doesn't repeat. You do see a lot of repeating history starting to percolate out this week. We'll cover some of that. We have an extensive lineup of clips and contextual history. We also have special guests tonight, and we are no longer streaming live on YouTube. No, we did not get demonetized or any of that sort of stuff. It's just because we want to be able to speak freely, and we kept reading comments of, hey, why don't you guys stream someplace else where you can just say what you want? And that's what we've adopted. We're going to stream here on Rockfin. It's going to be the home quarters, so the headquarters, the HQ, and we'll be able to take clips and samples of the show that we might be palatable for that type of audience on YouTube, and let other people know that we're over here now, that we are interested in the parrhesia aspect of being able to speak our thoughts freely, to express our First Amendment rights in this world, to be able to share useful and timely information with each other without having to use code words as people had to start doing on YouTube. You couldn't say COVID-19, coronavirus. People had to call it cornholio virus. That's a famous Luke Rudowskiism. These sort of things, we don't have to do that here. We could talk about hydroxychloroquine. We talk about ivermectin, all these sort of COVID therapeutics that are out there and the evidence that goes along with them. Some of those clips are also in tonight's presentation, so we'll dig into that. First, I wanted to welcome our first special guest tonight. This is Jason Bermas on stage, everybody. He helped us get hooked up with Rockfin, and with Jaime's help, we were able to get this stream up and running over the past month and populate the channel with all the things that we've produced in the Grand Theft World catalog, as well as some of my other documentary films and interviews, all right now streaming for free. It's not going to be premium content. Any of this Grand Theft World content that we're producing here is free to the public, but we do want you to sign up, create your free account on Rockfin if you're seeing this someplace else, and be able to chat along, see the notes, the references, and it's just another place because, as you might have seen, grandtheftworld.com is it's having struggle meeting all the traffic demands today. So we're working on expanding the servers. We just moved it to new servers, and we're working on expanding that hosting. So as we grow, there'll be growing pains like that. And Rockfin's got the infrastructure. You don't have to worry about clicking over here and seeing if the video is going to be up and playing. We have confidence that it will be. Jason, how you doing this evening, man? How you doing?
I am doing very well, and I want to thank you for letting me come in on this. I catch this a lot. I don't catch all 4 hours all the time, but I often do play it in the background, and I really love what you're doing with this show.
Likewise, man. We don't always get to see every frame of what's going on screen, but I've got most of your reports playing throughout the week as we're doing other things or in between meetings. I know I can catch like what's the gist between watching your work and watching Luke's work and a few other good friends. I'm able to catch up and not have to get in touch with the toxic mainstream media as directly as I used to. You guys are my healthy proxies, and I appreciate the coverage and the analysis. So how did you get hooked up on Rockfin in the first place? Why have you moved most of your traffic over there? What's going on with your YouTube situation, and how can we all aid in your endeavors?
Yeah, so I've been over there like a little over a year now. Maybe about 14, 15 months.
We got to say over here because we're streaming here now.
Well, over here on Rockfin. And, you know, it was one of those things where I remember Float was big at the time, and people were talking about Minds a lot and D Live. But the truth of the matter is, although I hadn't been fully demonetized on YouTube, I got to the point where every video was being demonetized and going up for review. And it was really rare that you'd see a video get remonetized. And they reached out to me. They said, you know, we have a way to actually monetize your content. And I'm skeptical because I've seen all these alt platforms. Having worked at We Are Change, you know, I was involved with Steemit and DTube before they totally and completely changed too. You know, all these other alt platforms. And I'd seen where they had their merits, but in reality, it was very hard to actually monetize these things and think of it in the manner that you did with YouTube, you know, that you could actually make revenue off of it. So I did a little call with them, and it sounded good. I said, look, I've got nothing to lose. They set me up with the wallet. And quite frankly, what I liked about its model above all these other premium models, like, for instance, I've never had a Patreon. Having just GoFundMe take my last campaign down kind of lets me know maybe Patreon's not my thing. And there's a couple reasons why. Number one, I don't really love tiering the system. Like, I don't like that one person pays $1 and they get this, or one pays $5 and they get this. And, the way I look at it is you don't necessarily have to pay anything for my content. I appreciate it when you do. I certainly couldn't do it unless some people reached out, and some people are able to reach out with literally $1. Some have given me hundreds at a clip. And so with the $9.99 subscription, and then you not only get everything I do, and I get the opportunity to put stuff out for free if I want, and I can live stream. It was almost a no-brainer, because even BitChute, which is another alt platform that's, great, and even went to a beta advertising model at one point, they don't live stream either. There were just so many things about this platform that I was like, all right, this is really actually cool. So you had all that. And then the other reason I didn't love Patreon is because, again, they were censoring. Well, Martin Floriani just did an interview this week with Graham Elwood, another creator here on Rockfin, maybe somebody who's a bit more to the left or progressive persuasion. And, somebody kind of trolled in the comments, but acted like they were being serious and like, well, what is the process if somebody is spreading disinformation on a consistent basis on their platform? How can we get it taken down? He's like, we're not in that fucking business, guy. He didn't say it like that, but he's like, look, that's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. We're not arbiters of truth. I'm not going to sit here and fact check all of my creators. He's like, so you're telling me that all of these platforms that basically gain success from people being able to express themselves and say and do what they like in the bounds of the law that we've always had, that good old Constitution and Bill of Rights, right? Freedom of speech. That's not good enough anymore when YouTube, Google, Twitter, Facebook all made their empires on that. He's like, that's not the business we're in. He's like, obviously, if you're saying something that's actually dangerous, or you're calling for violence, or you're doing something illegal, we will take that content off. But they've already done themselves a huge service where you've never seen this on any of these other platforms before, where they make you apply. It's not anybody that can sit there and just start making this stuff, right? So I can't make a bunch of dummy accounts and try to tear this down by putting up piracy, which you see on some of these things, right? So they just really had it together on so many levels. And I've watched this thing grow, from the time that I was fully demonetized on YouTube now, almost 11 months ago, to now. There's no way I could have moved my family across the country. I'd have money in my bank account if it weren't for this platform. So as they grow, I grow. And, I've been able to take about 1/6 now of my audience, which is unprecedented. If you look at all these alt platforms, over to Rockfin and say, hey, come at least follow me there. You don't have to pay anything, but Monday through Friday, we try to go exclusive at 11 a.m. Eastern time for an undisclosed amount of time. And then if it's a little too spicy, we leave it just up on Rockfin. If there's some stuff I want to put on YouTube, sometimes I put the whole show on. Sometimes I clip it up. But it gives me that ability to kind of not have to try to self-censor, say, oh, my God, I'm on this platform. Can I even say this? And then decide after the fact if I want to put out some of that material. So this platform's been nothing but a win for me. And, the guys over at Rockfin are amazing. That's all I have to say about their platform. Very well thought out.
Well, I think the other thing that I thought of while you're speaking there is that they let you own your own email list and have direct contact with your audience, whereas YouTube does not allow you to do that whatsoever. And that's the important way that you can bring your audience from YouTube over to another site, is to say, for instance, in your case, maybe you take your 6 documentaries down and you say, if you join at Rockfin, you'll get a high def zip, and you get all of Jason's movies, and that would be the lead magnet. And you would build an amazing email list out of that YouTube audience that's remaining there, and maybe they're on the fence, right?
Yeah. And what I say to people is, especially with this platform, yeah, free thinking media is there. A guy like Jason Bermas is there. Richard Andrew Grove is over there. You got guys on the right like Cernovich over there, and then people on the left like Nico House, The Convo Couch, Jimmy Dore, etc. But you pay that $9.99 a month, and you just happen to be interested in MMA like myself, or you happen to be interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or collegiate wrestling. You get all their premium stuff too. So like Duke Rufus, who's selling his DVD sets online for like $200, you get the whole thing. I mean, you can learn striking from a world-class coach, and that's just the beginning of it. You got guys like Ben Askren that actually do a crypto podcast once a week. They do an MMA pod. He does an MMA podcast a week with Front Row Brian. It's not just video content. So people like Whitney Webb are able to flourish here. You can do audio podcasts. You can put your extensive reporting out there. And if you want to put it under a paywall, you can do that. You can have stacks that almost act like playlists or threads on Twitter. They've really got this thought out. And I'm just going to bump at them a little bit. The very first time I did a video conference with them, I explained to them how important the super chat mechanism was, okay? Because at that point, more than half of my ad revenue from YouTube was coming from super chats because I was being demonetized all the time. And I said, look, if they take this away from me, I'm really going to have to up my game. I don't know what to do. So obviously they have the tipping factor. Now, to me, the tipping factor is now superior to super chat because super chat can only done when a video is either live or being premiered on YouTube. Now, any of my videos at any moment of the day, I could get a notification on my little smartwatch tracker device here that I got a tip on Rockfin as it happens for a video that's no longer live. That's great. What they need to do to take it to the next level and have something that's just not anywhere and unlike anything out there is to have a super video chat where it allows the user to upload a 30-second video on a message board, and then once a week I will go through those chats, and that way they can interact even more. I think that would be cool for the audience. I think it's very doable, and I think it's something that would give a little bit more spark and panache to something like Rockfin that could be truly more interactive and maybe have a go at some of these more mainline platforms out there.
Yeah, we might also have some options while we're waiting on Rockfin for that, so you could do that, because right now we have people that are watching it live inside of our community that's not on Rockfin, you know, the existing community that we had. So you could do something similar like that. And have you used OBS Streamlabs or anything like that?
So I'm on XSplit right now. You know,
I know. Yeah.
You guys on XSplit also right now?
No, we were on XSplit up until a couple months ago, and then I changed. I was the last to change over to OBS. I was the most resistant, and it was so fast, dude. And it's been so much better than what I was using.
Really?
Yeah.
I have such a great relationship with XSplit. I mean, I love how it works. I love how simple it is. I love how I'm able to show people. I do it across 3 different computers. This is my living room office.
It was honestly like a 10-minute learning curve difference to switch over.
Listen, a lot of people want me on that OBS. I
don't care what you do, man. But Jay Dyer was using the Streamlabs OBS because he couldn't any longer take the super chats on YouTube, and he had to work around, and he's got a good community feature on there as well. I was just offering solutions there.
I've seen Entropy and all these other little plugins as you go. What I do when it's like ask me anything, I'll utilize the Go Get funding, not the GoFundMe, because you can immediately leave a comment there. What I did used to love about the super chat feature when it was live is that I do all my videos live. So I could be sitting there doing a video, for instance, on Rand Paul and what he said to George Stephanopoulos, and somebody maybe in the middle of the video would put up a super chat. I'd get to it after my point, and then the video would turn into something else. You know what I mean? So I do miss, but I just find that I don't know, the way that Rockfin's doing it now is just so much more superior. And when I am live there and people do tip out, I'm able to go to that as well. So kudos to them, man. I mean, again, and look, there's a lot of great alt platforms out there. Props to Odyssey. You know, they backed up my entire channel. I was worried. I'm not sure. I think you were on that creator one. They promised me.
Yeah.
That it would be like a couple days or a couple weeks, right? So finally, I bit.
You got 1,800 videos, bro. There's a lot of people trying to upload.
Yeah, well, I said that to him. I go, listen, are you sure that it's going to do this for me? It's going to do 1,800 video. Oh yeah, you remember the response? It was like nothing.
He said like 3 days, I thought.
Well, no. So I did it, and in 3 days, only 1,000 were up, and they stopped. So they didn't upload 1,800 videos. So apparently their default mechanism was there. I was right to ask the question, and at 1,000, it cuts it off. So I had to go and get at them on Twitter, and then one of their people got at me at the DMs, and we went back and forth. And finally, I said, "Well, I on this video call. I was assured they were going to do this for me. And sure enough, they did it. They got like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do it and give us a few more days. And then they went and they manually re-uploaded the last 800. So they fully backed up my channel. Yeah, it was a little more difficult than the automated process. But I got to say, the automated process for that, if you have less than 1,000 videos on your channel, go for it. It's gravy. It's easy.
Yeah, I'm glad the Odyssey and Library, that's a thing now. It's not just BitChute. It's not just DLive or DTube or any of these. There's a whole bunch of solid places that are getting their workflows worked out. GoFundMe took away your ability for you to get funding. Is that around the DC trip? And because they probably wanted to say, because you went as a journalist, persona non grata, you're helping to organize things by having people donate to your trip, or what? Did they give you an explanation?
So here's the funny thing, man. That was month 19. So I've been doing a year and a half on there, right? So I've been doing a year and a half on there, and I'd seen some funny business before. So at one point, about 6 months ago, and the thing is that I leave them open for 3 to 6 months a piece because I have the link under every single video, and if somebody comes across a video later on, you know, they want the convenience just to be able to click and donate that way. And I often do get donations 3 to 6 months later. You know what I'm saying? So I leave them up in 6 months clip. Now, about 6 months ago, I had everything frozen, and they said they were reviewing basically all of them. They were under review, right? So I emailed them, and I was like, okay, well, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, with no response, I just get your reviews done, and everything's okay, and you can withdraw your money again. Okay, great. So then at the beginning of this month, now this is pre-DC, and I think that this is important. I had been using the GoFundMe as a super chat mechanism. So on like the first day I did it, either the first or second day I did it, I didn't ask me anything. And people were trying to leave comments via GoFundMe as super chats, and they couldn't do it. And they were donating and they couldn't do it. And they said, hey, they're not showing up. And I was like, that's weird because I have it checked. I checked my settings, the whole thing. And I started complaining about it on air. So then we get to me after the Capitol, okay? And then all of a sudden, I see the review again, but now I can see all these comments that were left the last 2 weeks because I knew my settings were right and people were leaving comments. And now they were on my front page. And I go, guys, I don't know what's going on here. But it's really weird that they all showed up after I talked about it. And I go, if they took them down purposely to not allow you to comment on my page in particular, that means that somebody at YouTube told them that I was using it as a super chat. That's the only reason they would have taken those down, right? So that shows big tech collusion to me. So I get at them and I send just like my form email, hey, this has happened to me before. I'm not sure what's going on, but I really want to rectify the situation. That's when the 19th one locked up. And then basically the next day I got a form email saying that I had went against their terms of service. Now, here's the funny thing. They took that down. They refunded a few people, not many, because most of the payments had already been processed. They don't redo it afterwards and take stuff out of your bank account. All 5 months before that are still running. Every one of them. They didn't violate anything, apparently. Only this one violated something. And, you know, I may have said something about going to DC, but obviously I couldn't have said that I was going to be at the Capitol for an insurrection because that wasn't an event. So you're telling me that, you know, I raise money and not even for that trip, that, you know, my monthly GoFundMe goes well beyond any kind of trips I take. I think you know that. So now I mention a news event that's going to happen in the future. Okay, I put that up as part of my GoFundMe, same like forum thing I do. I do those things. I go live several times a day. I even go live when I'm down there. I cover it like a news person. I'm not wearing a MAGA hat. I don't have any signs. I'm not doing chants. You know, I'm filming there. And then you pull my campaign. Come on. You know, I wasn't in the Capitol. I didn't break laws. It's really nutty, man. And the other thing is I'm not shy about, a lot of people were worried. They're like, are you really going to put that up on YouTube? I go, why wouldn't I put it up on YouTube? I didn't break any law. I go, if anything, I was filming the people that were, I'm like, I've got exclusive film of people that were cutting wires and smashing things. You know, you would want that, wouldn't you? What makes me different from the guy that I'm filming that's sitting there by the entrance that works for Getty Images? I don't understand. What is the difference? There isn't one, except for he's financially supported by authoritative sources, and I'm supported by the viewers and the people. That's it. That's the wrap.
Yeah, dude. Well, you weren't the only one getting a cold shoulder down there. I just we're gonna go with the first clip we have up tonight is Timcast, and they had the 25,000 troops down there sleeping on the hard marble floor of the Capitol. And when they were done, they sent 5,000 of them to a parking garage. We don't know what they did with the rest of them. There is a happy ending at the end of this story, but first we got to play the clip from the Timcast earlier this week.
My bias. I saw this story about the National Guard being dumped in a garage, and I said, sounds about right for Congress. For those that didn't hear the story, quote, we feel incredibly betrayed. Thousands of guardsmen forced to vacate Capitol. This one got me really angry. You know, we did the IRL podcast last night, and after we were leaving, I saw the story breaking that after these men and women were sent to D.C. on, a ridiculous mission, 25,000 troops, to protect the inauguration, that I can respect, but 25,000 troops, a bit nuts. After I saw this story, that after all that, after the handshaking and the smiling and the photographs and the thank you men and women of the armed forces, they put them in a parking garage. There was no bathroom, there was no power outlet, and they were told to sleep in a garage. I despise these people so much. Congress, not the National Guard. The National Guard I love and respect. The people who are willing to stand at attention and say, I'm here for you, I'll protect you. That is my job. I'm not going to pretend that every single person who joins the armed forces is some kind of hero. For many of these people, it's a job. But to be willing to say, I trust and respect, the system. I will follow orders and do as I'm told because I trust in this country and the chain of command. I respect that. The intentions of these people to do their job to make sure we are all safe. Congress, despicable, wealthy. It's like the Hunger Games, man. You know what? Let me read you this story from Politico. Guardsmen were later let back in. Sure. Thousands of National Guardsmen were allowed back into the Capitol. Oh, I'm sorry. Thursday night, hours after U.S. Capitol police officials ordered them to vacate the facilities, sending them outdoors or to nearby parking garages after 2 weeks pulling security duty after the deadly riot on January 6th. One unit, which had been resting in the Dirksen Senate office building, was abruptly told to vacate the facility on Thursday, according to one guardsman. The group was forced to rest in a nearby parking garage without internet reception, with just one electrical outlet and one bathroom with 2 stalls for 5,000 troops, the person said. Temperatures in Washington were in the low 40s by nightfall. After everything that we've been going through, I can believe it. No, I want to say I can't believe it. No, I can believe it. These people are disgusting. The Republicans and Democrats alike. Now, to be fair, there were many Republicans who spoke out against this, who were outraged by this, and rightly so. It really seems, what we've seen. Most of the Democrats are establishment, urban, spoiled brats. Most Republicans are as well, but there's slightly more Republicans who are willing to say, dude, no to something like this. Quote, yesterday, dozens of our senators and congressmen walked down our lines taking photos, shaking our hands, and thanking us for our service. Within 24 hours, they had no further use for us and banished us to the corner of a parking garage. We feel incredibly betrayed, the guardsman said. Politico obtained photos showing the guard members packed together in the parking garage, sleeping on the ground with only one bathroom for 5,000 people. I don't even think that's legal for any business in this country, let alone the people who are supposed to be protecting us. I'm sorry, let alone for the people who are literally protecting us. Now, never mind the ridiculous narratives they put out about why they were going to need crew-manned machine guns, Nancy Pelosi. I kid you not. Apparently, the story is that they wanted all these troops there guarding everybody, but then realized, wait a minute, the National Guard might be loyal to the people and not a bunch of millionaires who have been siphoning off the value and the working and the labor from the value of the labor, the value of the working class in this country. Man, I can't believe it. All National Guard troops were told to vacate the Capitol and nearby congressional buildings on Thursday and to set up mobile command centers outside or in nearby hotels, another guardsman confirmed. They were told to take their rest breaks during the 12-hour shifts outside and in parking garages, the person said. Top lawmakers from both parties took to Twitter to decry the decision. Oh, so my respect to Chuck Schumer. And call for answers after Politico first reported the news Thursday night, with some even offering their offices to be used as rest areas. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeted, "If this is true, it's outrageous. I will get to the bottom of this." Serious respect to Chuck Schumer, not a guy I'm a big fan of, but saying this. And Tom Cotton noted that the Capitol complex remains closed to members of the public, so there's plenty of room for troops to take a break in them. By 10 p.m., Senator Martin Heinrich, a Democrat of New Mexico, said the situation was being resolved and that guardsmen would be able to return indoors later in the night. Just made a number of calls and have been informed Capitol Police have apologized to the guardsmen and they will be allowed back into the complex tonight, added Senator Tammy Duckworth. So let me walk back what I said about Democrats. A lot of Democrats stepped up to this one, and that was wrong of me. I'm glad that there is a bipartisan effort to give respect to these men and women. My brain exploded when I saw this story. The idea that you would enlist, that you would sign up for this job as our frontline defense, or whatever, look, serving in the military, I have tremendous respect for it. And then you have to take orders from these plutocrats who don't care about you, who would send you off to a parking garage. I'm glad to see that they're both Democrats and Republicans decrying this. Tammy Duckworth said she'll keep checking to make sure that they're, taken care of. A guard source confirmed late Thursday night that all troops in the parking garages were ordered to return inside the Capitol. Brigadier General Janine Burkhead, the Guard's inauguration task force commander, confirmed in a statement to Politico a little after midnight that the troops are out of the garage and back into the Capitol as authorized by the USCP Watch commander. They will take their breaks near Emancipation Hall going forward. In a statement, Capitol Police spokesperson Eva Malecki said the department recently asked the troops' shift be reduced from 12 hours to 8 hours in order to allow for additional rest hours away from the Capitol complex. The statement did not explain why the guardsmen were forced into parking garages. Guardsmen who spoke with Politico were not given a clear reason why they were asked to vacate the buildings. The first guardsman said it may have been that due to a complaint that some troops were not wearing masks, but denied that was the case. We have strict guidance that masks are to be worn at all times unless soldiers are eating and drinking, the guardsman said. There are photos from the Capitol building. They ain't wearing masks. And you know what? I'll be honest. I don't care. Because if you really think there's some great threat and someone's going to storm in or whatever, and I have to choose between a National Guard that's going to protect us from death, like violence, or maybe people coughing and being in confined space, I'm going to take the dudes who are there for the immediate threat. Look, yeah, COVID is a problem. I get it. You should wear masks and all that stuff. But listen, if I had to prioritize what my concerns would be, it wouldn't be whether they're wearing masks or not. I'd just stay away. Now, I would have a concern that maybe they can get each other sick, but these people are not in the affected group, so the likelihood they get sick is actually close to zero. Quote, as Congress is in session and increased foot traffic and business is being conducted, Capitol Police asked the troops to move to their rest area. BS. They said that the building was still closed to the public. Guard leadership did not make the decision and are doing their best to provide rest, shelter for troops who are still on 12-hour shifts protecting the Capitol and congressional grounds. Can I ask a question? Why, though? Why? What are they guarding it from? I mean, we're done, right? Is there a threat? Sure, maybe, whatever. I get they might want to linger around for a little bit and just, let things taper off. They say, quote, there really may be an important reason for us to vacate, and it just hasn't been well communicated, a second guardsman said. The troops are particularly concerned about being packed in tight quarters with limited bathroom access during a pandemic. At least 100 guardsmen have tested positive for COVID-19, according to two guardsmen. Some are quarantining in hotels. Well, there you go. A spokesperson previously declined to provide a specific number for troops who have tested positive for the virus. It's interesting. I saw one quote where they said, we went from crew-manned machine guns to having their magazines removed from their rifles because Democrats were scared of the National Guard. That's amazing, isn't it? They wanted them all vetted. It has been nothing but a constant slap in the face being spat on for these men and women in uniform. First, they're told that they can't be trusted by the likes of Cuomo, CNN. They're told that Pelosi and these other Democrats want them vetted because they can't be trusted. Reports were going around if they were concerned. Did any of these people vote for Donald Trump? Because we should probably figure out if they did. Some of these people apparently posted memes and were members of the NRA. Some apparently had Gadsden flags. You know the Gadsden, don't tread on me, a symbol of the American Revolution.
Go ahead and pull it. We don't
For that.
I know those are, but Tim made the main points there. There's several to be made. First, that the military was called to guard the Capitol in the first place. Then they were disarmed. Then they were questioned and ran background checks, and then they were sent to the garage. And then they realized that was probably a bad decision. They started to retract that, backtrack on that. And then along the way, I also saw that there was a certain hotel in DC that started getting used by police and military. They were very thankful. I don't know if we have any news coverage of that. Probably do coming up. But there's several issues there. And Jason, do you think that that many troops in the Capitol was necessary, or do you think it was more of a show of force or some sort of intimidation or a message being sent? How do you see that sort of unfolding that happened at the Capitol?
So there's a lot of realities there. Okay. The reality isn't that somehow it was Donald Trump retaining power in a secret Q martial law like plan, and that was all going around, and that's why DC had to be that way. No, you look at, first of all, the psychological warfare. The very beginning of the whole instance was what? Troops were sleeping at the Capitol. Oh, our troops were sleeping. That was nothing more than a show. Let's be honest with ourselves. Washington, D.C. is right next to both Maryland and Virginia that have plenty of military bases and plenty of military personnel. And had they wanted to, and they wanted to create a normal scenario where they actually felt threatened and not some ridiculous threat of a topless man who was 33 years old, living with his mother with a buffalo on his head. No, not that, but like something real. Then you want people awake and ready. But since you know there's not a threat, but you want to act like there is one, you're going to show how dangerous it is by putting the military everywhere, having them sleep on top of each other. And then you have the excuse to get rid of the public for the inauguration. Okay, the way they wired up DC and had a bunch of military and police officers up and down the lines of what was one of the most atrocious inauguration, not one of the most atrocious inauguration day parade I've ever seen in my life. It was something out of North Korea. Like, I thought I was watching something maybe out of a South American dictatorship if it wasn't as cold outside. You had all these military personnel. I could only see their eyes if I could see that. And all these police, I could only see their eyes if I could see that. That was frightening to me. And I think that was twofold. One, they didn't want, again, protesters out there. Number two, they didn't want to show how much support Biden really didn't have. You know, how many people were really coming out to the Biden-Harris inauguration, even without the pandemic. And that showed when they went to their full-line pre-programmed propaganda that was basically this actor that leads Richard with, I recently played the president, and like, who the fuck cares if you played the president? What am I about to watch here? And then it was all play on your heartstrings with little kids, and a little kid playing a trombone solo with another guy in New York City who's on the top of a building, what is it? Stay apart together and new normal bullshit. And then they go to military academies where these people are forced to march. There is no parade. There's zero parade. Like, when we get to actual American citizens, it's all like cheerleading and dance troops. And then you get to the Texas one. And this one just really bothered me. In fact, I did a video exclusive on Rockfin. I didn't even put it on YouTube because it got too spicy. But you had this cheerleading group in Texas, a state that actually didn't vote for Joe Biden, whether you believe there was any kind of election rigging or voter fraud at all. And they're sitting there all masked up, doing this dance together in a broken down, run down road where there's cracks everywhere. And it looks like something, again, out of a second or third world country, or somewhere that there's no tax system to make the community look nice. And I'm like, I had to turn it off. So to me, look, man, I'm not
I
outraged.
saw him in signing those executive orders, and it looked like he would have trouble ordering breakfast at Denny's.
Thank you. Thank you. And that only feeds into these, Q fantasies that he's on a studio somewhere. No one's saying that, Joey B is in charge, because Joey B isn't in charge of his own brain. But Zombie Joe is signing shit and doing shit on behalf of the Predator class. I promise you. That is exactly what's happening. And this thing with I liked him. I think he's a smart guy. But I think you play into that right, left, military strength, conservative, liberal storyline when you start talking about this. The truth of the matter is, yeah, they shouldn't have put them in a parking garage. But any of those people that have seen real service, in other countries, and that's not to denigrate what they do here, but anybody who's been overseas where there's real battle and live fire,
and sand spiders.
Yeah, exactly. Goat spider, all that stuff. Like they've got other concerns that are a lot bigger. That's what's disturbing. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was a good wake up call because they brought National Guard from all 50 states in because it was kind of that PR show, front thing. And a lot of those guys got real experience, and they'll always remember that time they had to go guard the Capitol against no enemy.
no known actual threat. So
I loved how they brought out the real walls like the next day. They didn't have them up for the protests, but as soon as that happened, boom, just like they got delivered late or something. Sorry.
The whole thing is shameful, man. And it is, I think a lot of it has to do with psychological operations and being able to play on people's heartstrings. There is no reason for that much military to be in DC right now. There is no real threat. But again, if they want to pass domestic terror legislation where your neighbor, your uncle, your aunt, your brother, your sister could now be a domestic terrorist because the way they vote, they have to play it that way.
Yeah, it's like trauma-based mind control that they're unfolding on the public, and what they're doing resembles a lot what they did in Soviet Russia during the Gulag time, of how the informants and people would just turn and take bribes and this sort of thing. And it was the stool pigeons, it was the intelligence. But now it's everybody's smartphone, it's everybody's social media network, and you don't have to have human beings feeding all this to the organs of government to grind you up. You're just purveying it up on the internet through all their various devices, right?
It's very true. And I feel bad for the National Guard being used in this manner. But also the truth of the matter is, we're going to have to start relying more and more on local law enforcement that we voted in, and those people in both the private and military sector, like the National Guard, that can understand firsthand, on a firsthand level, what these lockdowns and these restrictions are doing to middle America. Because if we don't have these people on our side, we are in for a long 2021. And I think, again, Richard, that also plays into this Predator class narrative that we now have to vet soldiers and National Guard members as possible domestic terrorists because of how they voted in a mainline presidential election.
Well, it's almost like they're smashing up the Stanford prison experiment and the Milgram experiment live in public right now. So they want people to be divided and conquered and at each other's throats. But really, I think it starts with strong individuals and strong communities. And as we learn to communicate to those people who are really obedient to authority in an Eichmann type of way, like Hannah Arendt wrote about, like the bureaucrat speak of Amtssprache that they use to control people, dehumanized people in the text, and they were just following orders. And we hear about that more and more these days, that you just have to follow the rules and trust the authorities, trust the experts, and don't think for yourself. And it's really, I saw that new dystopia meme where it's got them all kind of worked in today. They're doing a really good job of kind of blending those dystopias together with the technopoly and really asserting control in a non-constitutional republic type of way.
They are. And it's scary how well it's worked. And it's scary how this is pushing forward in a rather rapid fashion. Today, for instance, I was cycling through some of the global television. In other words, I was watching Canada's TV, I was watching global news, and, the propaganda there is very, very scary. They're talking about this new mutated strain. You get over to the United Kingdom, and now you have Boris Johnson calling for lockdowns through mid-July. through mid-July, my friend. I mean, we're talking about now almost 6 months from today after, a lockdown period of almost a year, 10 and a half,
Look,
11 months.
If you can just wait 2 weeks, Jason, so we can flatten the curve and slow the spread, we're all going to be good.
We're all going to be good.
If lockdowns don't work, lockdown harder. That's what they're saying, right? It's like,
and that is the reality. And now that you have Fauci with his mask off, smiling and smirking even more, going on Rachel Maddow's show and, crying little elf tears that he wasn't allowed to go on her show because of the narrative that they put out. And now just the complete and total reinforcement that if you don't buy into this COVID-19 84 narrative, you are the problem. And you might be treated like a domestic terrorist. Who cares how you vote? That's the next step. But the thing is, Richard, I was very worried. I've got my caged aggression mask right here.
They want you to wear 2 layers of masks now, they said today. That was one of the tweets I responded to. I was like, you guys are smart.
I'll say this, man. The inauguration has come and gone. I still go to my coffee shop in the morning. I still do not wear my mask. I am still ultra pleasant with them. They are ultra pleasant with me. There's one guy in particular that every time I see, I know how much he envies me that he has to work because he doesn't have the mask on half the time anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I always catch him without his mask, and I'm always like trying to be friends with him because I'm like, I can tell how upset he is that this is even going on. But that's still happening. I went out this weekend, not last night when I did the thing with Pat, but on Friday I went to the bars, not a mask in sight. Still not a mask in sight in the downtown Quad City scene on the Iowa side. So there are pockets of resistance no matter what the TV is telling you. And if they try to lock us down the way they did for a very short time period about 2-3 months ago, I don't think it's going to fly here. I really do not think it's going to fly here. What that means, I dare not speculate. I got frustrated today on my show, and I got a little bit of a hit for it, and whatever, it happens. But I had somebody in my comment section basically talking about, well, you think that 75 million Americans are gonna just accept communism without shooting? And 2 reasons it got a little bit under my skin. Number one, this is not communism that we're facing. All right, and I keep saying that. China's just a vehicle. It's a beta test. The system there isn't really going to be communism. It's going to be the full regimentation of all human beings through technology, period. That's not exactly communism. That's globalism. That's New World Order 101. Now, they've used it as a vehicle for a place to restrict speech, encourage slave labor, encourage the technological surveillance of everybody, and then giving them a
social credit score.
Yeah, exactly. A non-monetarily based social credit score that basically is their money, because if they don't have a good one, they can't move certain places. They can't use certain things like trains and planes. They can't send their kids to the correct schools. So to me, this is way beyond communism. And then the other thing is the whole shooting thing. I don't believe the people that start shooting first win. In fact, I think they bury us. I really do. And that's not me telling you not to take action. That's not me being anti-Second Amendment. That's me being a realist. And I ended up, calling people fucking retards on my show when that was put out there. But I get frustrated, especially when it's some keyboard cowboy that's talking about some pseudo-violence that's not, a well-regulated militia that person probably isn't even sincere about. He might think he's sincere because he's seen Clint Eastwood movies and Tom Cruise movies and Bruce Willis movies, and he knows he could take out the bad guy. But that's not fucking reality, man. It's not. So, I'm human. I make mistakes too. I shouldn't have been as harsh on that person, that audience, but I'd also gone through about 45 minutes with like a dozen Q references and trust the plan and Trump's, in charge and he's going to be the 17th or the 19th president of the constitutional republic. And Joe Biden's the president of the corporation and everything's okay. And, pseudo Jordan Maxwell intellectual trash. And I like Jordan too. That's not what I mean. But I mean, all that stuff has been around forever. And now I'm seeing it regurgitated into this scenario where they're
it's rebranded through military intelligence.
And it's rebranded like Trump's the savior. Trump has never had less political power since before he was president right now, period. He's got like none. Like they're taking away his private business dealings in New York City. They're cutting his bank ties in Florida. We still haven't gotten to the impeachment hearing for the quote unquote insurrection. There are criminal investigations going on.
All of that throws shade for that Hunter Biden laptop that's going to come out any day now.
Exactly, Richard.
There's real news out there no one's covering. And the people that claim those stories, it's like that's not attached to the real news. It's just attached to fantasy, unicorn land.
Well, somebody tried to put in there that because like FanDuel and all these other bookies aren't paying out till March 5th, apparently, if you bet on the presidency, that somehow March 5th is the day that QAnon comes from the clouds and rains down it's ridiculous. Like
how much money does FanDuel make on a couple months interest on those millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars? Because they'll just do it because they'll be like, hey, we want to make sure everything's solid. We'll hold on to your money. Yeah,
well,
seems
again,
like bookies.
I think that, they were protecting their investment. And number two, they did know that there might be a contest, the election may be contested at some point, and there might be court cases that went on before January. So they hedged their bets in the beginning. It has nothing to do with some super secret white hat plan to take back the presidency.
Trust the superheroes, Jason. Don't get into it. It's for professionals and experts. Don't go thinking for yourself and taking actions.
Richard, I do have to bail. I'm going to pop this section on my Rockfin. I don't know whether I'm going to do this.
I expect you to. I hope
tomorrow,
you do.
But I will be doing that. And I want to thank you for your work, sir. I do enjoy the podcast. And I bid a good day to you and your audience.
Right on. Rock on, dude. Thank you for watching this clip from Grand Theft World. You can find us on grandtheftworld.com. You can also see us every Sunday night, 9 p.m., streaming live on rockfin.com/Richard Grove. You can create a free account. You can see the live stream because YouTube's banning it, and we're moving elsewhere. So we'll continue to put clips here on YouTube. Thank you again for taking time to sample it. But what we want you to do is see the whole episode. You've got 168 hours in a week. It's not unreasonable to take 5 hours strategically to invest in understanding what's going on in the world, catch up on some contextual history, and we have some fun along the way. Also, if you go to grandtheftworld.com, we have a community feature there. You can sign up. You get a weekly briefing, a rundown of all the things that we found valuable during the week, maybe some things that got censored and moved to other platforms. You'll get relinked up to that. A whole bunch of other benefits that come with subscription. And if that's too much for you, just go to grandtheftworld.com and download the 2040 Strategic Trends document. It's a summary of what the British Ministry of Defense has planned for everyone's families going in the future. So become aware of the plans that exist. Also, fortify your knowledge with things that are substantial and meaningful and help you understand so you can make better decisions. That's the purpose of the Grand Theft World podcast, and we'll see you in the next clip. Thank you.